Hi, this is Dieter for sitemanager.io. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use smart content for personalized content. And we already built a project here, Smart Behavior. When we go to the settings page and select premium modules and integrations, we can see there's a section for smart content. And you can select the things that you need to build your website. I suggest you start with a free version where you have one group where you can try things out, and then you can upgrade to have unlimited options or add A/B logic, time logic, or if you want to use the API. So the first thing we're going to do is log into the project. As you can see, it's already a pre-built website here for demonstration purposes. What we have is a website that is renting cabins at a lake in nature. And we were going to target two specific groups, which are fishermen and hikers. And we are going to change the content depending to which group that they belong to. So the first thing we need to do is to configure and set up the smart content groups. To do that, we go to the code environment and we select the smart content section here and click Edit Settings. The first thing we're going to do is create our two groups. So we're going to create a group for fishermen and give them a public tag of fish. And we are going to create another group for hikers and give them the public tag of hike. So when we click this pencil icon, we can change the settings of our group. Since this is a public group, we have to set it to public, so we can add the parameter to the URLs to enable for advertisement, etc., to put people into this group. And we want to store this group in a cookie, because if they revisit the website, they're still inside of the group. For example, if you're using the smart content module for password protection pages, you might select session. How do we want this password or this group to behave? We want to make this a unique group, which means that if you are a fisherman, you cannot be a hiker, and etc. So you can also create combined groups. So somebody could be a fisherman and a hiker, and you create logic for that as well. So then you have the site manager variables, which are used in our code environment. When developers, front-end coders are creating content, they can use these functions to put inside their code, and it will immediately show or not show this content to this certain group. But we also have something that we call smart rules, which I'm going to explain later. And this is how you can set rules inside the CMS for your content. This is your group ID, which is mostly used for the API. So we click Save Changes, and we do the same thing for our hikers group. So we're going to set them to public, cookie, and unique. And this is the code for the code environment. And this is the group ID for the API. And we click Save Changes. The next thing we're going to do is configure our smart content engine. So we have a lot of options. We can go over them right now. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that you enable the URL login. So this way we can have public groups and pass the password fish and hike to the URL and put visitors in these groups. We're also going to use smart rules, which is something that is used inside the CMS to create rule sets for content. And if we copy pages, content, or databases, it will also copy the rule sets. So it's recommended that you select to put this on. This section is a section that we're not going to use right now because this is for password protected pages. But this is one that's really important right now to enable smart rule sets for the CMS. So we can switch on and use rule sets for content components, which is what we're going to show you in this example. But we can also do this for entire pages, and we can select to apply the rule also to the menu of the website, the navigation menu, And also if you want this rule to apply to the content section of the page only, or select the entire layout. And we also can enable the smart rule set for a database entry. So if your website is using our database module, it completely integrates with it as well. The next section is for A/B testing, which we are going to show in a later video. Same for time logic. And this is where your smart API credentials would be if you would need them. It's also very important to know that you can always click the help button right here and go to these documents who show more in depth than this video how to implement and configure the smart contents module. The first thing I'm going to show you is how the smart rule set works, which we enabled for content components right here. So to show you how this works, we return to the content application. We have already prepared the home page when we created 3 different call to actions, which are the same, but the content changes. So this is our generic call to action, where we ask the visitor to book the cabin at the lake. And here we have a different content where we talk about the cabins being the best fishing spot. So this is targeted toward fishermen. And this is a call to action that's more tailored towards hikers. So how can we make sure that the visitor is showing or experiencing the content that is relevant for them? To do this, we go over the content section and click the options button right here. At the bottom of the options, you see the smart content section where you can add smart rules. It says that there are no smart rules added at this point. This is shown because in the configuration step that we did previously, we enabled smart rules for content components. So when we click the plus, we can now select what kind of smart logic we want to add to this piece of content. Since we only enabled access logic, this is already predefined, but if we would also have enabled A/B testing or time logic, you would select what kind of logic first. Then you select a group. So we want to apply logic to the fisherman group, and we want to show this content when the visitor is not in the group, because this is our generic call to action. So we don't want to show this when our visitor is a fisherman. And we also don't want to show this rule when our visitor is a hiker. So we apply these 2 rules to the piece of content, click Save, and we close the panel. Now you can see here a new icon has emerged that says that smart rules have been added to this piece of content. So this is how you can immediately see if some piece of content has smart rules applied to it. So now we are going to repeat this process for the fishermen and the hikers. So this is the fisherman call to action. So we are going to do the same thing again, but this time we are going to show this content when the visitor is in the group of fishermen. Since it's a unique group, we also know it's impossible for a fisherman to be a hiker at the same time. If we would have chosen for combined logic, we would have to add another rule saying that this content cannot be shown to hikers. But in this case, it's not necessary. And we do the same process for the third call to action for the hikers group. Like this. Now, when we publish our website, you will be able to see the results when we visit the website and change the URL. So when we visit the website, you will notice that there's only one call to action showing, which is the generic one that asks us to book a cabin at the lake. Now, if for one reason we have visited a page, it doesn't matter what page, and we would have added our parameter that is a fisherman, you would notice that the call to action has now changed to the call to action relevant for the fishing group. And the same thing would be true if it would have been changed for the hiking group. And since it's stored as a cookie, it will always remember that the visitor who's using this browser is someone who is inside the group of hikers. So all other content could be changed as well. Now we return to the project, and as you see, it was really easy to implement some logic to these 3 call to actions. This was the easiest way to implement smart content, and this is smart rule set is applied to page settings, to content settings, and to databases. I've already shown you in the configuration that there's also some code variables that developers can use to put inside the code that will immediately apply the logic to the piece of content. But there's also a third way to implement it using the code environment, is to ask inside the CMS form for some smart content rule sets. In this example, we have this slider in our homepage and on our other pages, and we have created 3 versions of this slider where the content will be different depending on the group. And now we are going to add an input variable for the smart content rule set right here, so that we can apply the logic inside the form. This is also a better way to create content when you have a lot of groups and a lot of variations, because as you can see here, we have 3 variations. But if you have a lot of groups and a lot of logic, this could become really convoluted to work with. So you would have to use the input variable and work with hidden content inside the CMS to make it manageable. So this is what we're going to show right now. So we have these 3 sliders. I'm going to show you, this is the first one, the generic one. This is the one more applied to the fishermen. And this is the one who is more relevant for the hikers. So we return to the code environment. And since this is a layout component, we're going to click Edit Components. And here you find the slider that was used inside this project. And we have the input group for the slides. And we are going to add a new input element, which is now smart content. This will only be available when smart content is installed on your website. So if you don't have smart content installed yet, you will not be able to select this input element. So now we click Add Input, and now we can drag it, for example, to the top of the screen, and we click this icon to change the settings. So we can say Smart Logic, for example, and we can determine what kind of logic can be used for this rule set. So since we're only working with personalized content, we only need the access logic. So we're gonna leave it like this and click Save. So when we go to the code of this component, we will now add the variable that was created for the smart content and wrap it around our code like this. Of course, I am not explaining how Site Manager code environment and Site Manager design is working right now. So if you're new to Site Manager, I suggest you watch some other videos where we explain the basics of Site Manager first, because these are not explained in this video. So, but to explain it really fast, Site Manager has an environment for the content, an environment for the code, an environment for the design, and an environment for project management. And depending on the user, you will be able to access code, design, and content. So that way, professionals can build, maintain, and create websites without their end clients being able to change the code or design and actually messing up the websites, right? So we click Save. And now when we return to our content application and return to the slider, you will notice that this input variable has been added that wasn't there before. And now we're going to add logic to these 3 slides. So we're going to do the same thing that we did previously for the call to action banners. So this one is the standard one, which we're going to show when visitors are not fishermen and not hikers. The second one is actually uniquely for the fishermen. So we're going to add this rule here. And this one is when for the hikers. So we click this rule and we can publish the website again. And when we click visit website, you will see that it's still remembered from the previous publication that I'm still in the phishing group. So you immediately see that the slider has changed to the phishing experience. Even if you visit other pages, it remembers that we're in the phishing group. This is the end of this video. If you have more questions about smart content, you can visit our knowledge base, which the link is shown on screen right now. And you can also send us an email or let us know what you're thinking, and we'll be happy to help you out. Thank you for watching.